Evan Nolan, Season 2, Episode 10. It's double digits.
Wow. So wait, so we did 50 the first year, and now another 10. That means we're like 40 away from syndication, my friend.
Oh, look at that. Who knows? Who might pick us up? TBS used to pick up everything.
Yeah, I mean, does the CW really have anything else that they want to put up?
Does that even still exist?
Or is it, I have no idea. UPN?
I know this much. Someone who's in our groups, Glenn, put out this tweet. That's the only time of the year that I've ever got to figure out where True TV is.
Yeah, I saw that.
In reference to March Madness. Quick rant, if I could. There's no snubs when there's 68 teams. There's not. 68 teams, win 2 more games. That's it.
Yeah, there are some teams in there that I don't think should be in there. The only team I was worried was going to get snubbed was Drake. Went 25-2 and basically caught the last rung of the ladder into the tournament. But once Drake was in, Michigan State is in this tournament. They have no business being there. There are a lot of teams that are barely in. Syracuse shouldn't be there. There are a whole bunch of teams that are barely in. And if you're not one of those ones who didn't make it, I'm not that upset. Plus, from what I could tell, that's not my non-sportsman week. It's someone I considered, though. The NCAA basically putting these kids in a hotel, giving them for entertainment. They're not allowed to leave their rooms. The entertainment they gave them were 1,000-piece puzzles and not anything else. And then the food they're getting, one of the teams had hot breakfast served cold and without utensils. So they were using the ice cube scoop to eat their cold eggs. What are we doing here? They just signed a $900 million thing for the tournament. Spend a little money so these kids who are stuck there, who are playing for free, get some decent stuff. When I was a undergrad, I could get a paid internship in my field, and it's not a problem. These top level athletes can't get any sort of bonus. They're making everybody else money, and you can't even get them a hot food when they're stuck in their rooms.
To be fair, that is changing.
I should have made the NCAA my a-hole of the week, but I didn't. So
well, that's such low-hanging fruit, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the fruit I'm pulling is probably even lower than that. But yeah.
Well, before we pull the fruit, I just want to give an uncle of mine passed away last night.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
That's okay. I was 92 or 94. I'm not exactly sure. Wasn't someone I was particularly close with, but I'll always remember him for the advice he gave me right before I started university. Looked me in the eye and said, any girl who would screw you would screw anybody, so always wear a rubber.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I didn't put that on the condolence board that was sort of put up online. But yeah, I thought I'd just save that for this show because it does make me laugh, and I never forgot it.
Well, I'm trying to decide who that was a bigger hit at. Whether that was a shot at you, was a shot at women. That's just interesting.
All these years later, I still don't know. I could take it very personally. I could take it in a misogynistic way. I could take it both ways. He meant well. It was just him and I, so he wasn't going for a cheap laugh.
Yeah, interesting.
But rest in peace, Uncle Don. We'll dedicate this show to you.
Absolutely. Strangely, I think we've somehow properly segued into my non-sportsman of the week between bringing up the NCAA and your quote.
Okay.
So I know I know you wanted to guess who you thought it was. Who did you think it was?
I know it's going to be wrong. I don't even know the name of the gentleman who just got fired from the ill-fated 2021 Olympic Committee.
Oh, that guy was one of the finalists. Yeah, that guy with the I can't think of his name, but he was the second person who they've had in charge of the Olympic Committee in Japan. The first guy was forced to resign a few weeks ago because he said that women talk too much at meetings. And now the guy that got to replace him. Well, no. You want to describe what he said?
Well, no, he didn't. He didn't replace them. He was in charge because I don't know the name of the person who replaced that guy, but it was a female who replaced him, making her the first head, I believe, of an IOC committee. But this individual was put in charge of the opening and closing ceremonies, and there's an actress or comedian. I wasn't familiar with her, but then why would I be? I suppose named
Naomi Watanabe.
Naomi Watanabe, and he put it on a live Zoom thing. I guess he thought it was closed. I'm telling you, Zoom is just not a good thing for people. It just isn't. And he said, we'd hire her as the Olymp Pig.
Yeah, they were going to tie pig's ears to her and lower into the middle of the arena.
Yeah, so it wasn't just referring to, and she's a larger framed individual. Yeah, she's plus size,
which is fairly uncommon in Japan, where they are so uptight about the weight of women in that country in general.
Yeah, so I mean, the fact that she's successful at all in that country is, I'm going to say, a testament to her talent. I obviously I don't know what it is because I wasn't familiar with her. But I do think that it's a nice pun on words, Olympic. I do like that, just maybe not in this context. I'm sure there's a youth sport if you have like a Pig Olympics,
Yeah, I mean, I have no trouble with the Pig Olympics. As someone who has been to a county fair as a child and tried to catch a greased pig, let me tell you,
that's a real thing.
Challenge. Oh yeah, it's a real thing. I was at the Stevenson County Fair in Stevenson in Illinois. Stevenson County is like right up in not quite the far northwestern corner, but like the western corner of the state on the border with Wisconsin. And I was at the Stevenson County Fair. I must have been, my grandma was still around, so I must have been like 9 or 10. And I entered a greased pig contest and tried to catch a pig. There were several pigs. They're all piglets. And not an easy thing to do.
Okay.
You think you have a good grip on it, and it is just straight through your arms. So, yeah.
Damn.
That would be fun. That should be. I can't believe that's not on the Ocho. Just like farm games, you know what I mean?
So that would be the true Olympics.
There you go. Those would be Olympics. Yeah, you could have the best grease swine from around the world.
Yes. So it wasn't this guy. So who was it?
No, it was I believe recently retired wide receiver Roddy White.
Oh, what did he do?
So, Deshawn Watson has had some allegations pop up against him. Now, there's some
3.
I'm questioning the timing more than anything else. He's been wanting to be traded. He's gotten in trouble with former Patriots chaplain and now chief Texans moralizer, Mr. Estabrook? I can't remember his full name. Who now basically has control of the franchise because the owner is basically listening to everything he says. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, from all accounts, there are these allegations that he has been inappropriate with various masseuses. Now, there's a lot of weird things about this story, including the fact that the lawyer representing these people is a next-door neighbor of the owner of the Texans. From what it's been shown, I have no idea whether that's true. I've just seen it multiple times with maps and everything. So there may be some sort of weird inside smear job, which doesn't make any sense because If they're going to trade him, that's not helping.
Exactly. But only the Texans. You'd have to believe that if there's any organization this dumb in the last 12 months to do something like that, to cost them potential draft picks, to make your guy go from a trade bait value from a first to a seventh, it's the Texans.
Yeah, I agreed. But at the same time, I don't want to minimize this because we do not know, outside of the timing and the fact that, I mean, you never know how anyone is actually doing anything, right?
That's true.
In their private lives. So I don't want to minimize the allegations because we don't know. Everything we know, I'm not an internet sleuth. Everything I know is from what I've found on Twitter and reporters and everything like that. Here's what I will say. Don't be Roddy White.
Okay, I don't even know what
Roddy White has a tweet up from this morning, which is still up, that says, I hate this for Deshawn Watson. The quickest way now to get a bag is to sue someone. It's impossible to make someone give you oral sex. This is a far stretch and everybody wants to get paid. It's the second sentence in there, which just shows ridiculous blindness as to what's going on. I know that people want to sue someone for whatever. I know that maybe it's a far stretch for his character. Everyone wants to get paid. But the very idea, it's impossible to force someone to do something you don't want them to do in a sexual content is ridiculous and entirely tone deaf. And is going to probably get him in some issues.
He's lucky his career is over.
Yeah, I don't. As someone put there, like, there's no way that a 6'2", 220-pound person could force anyone to do anything. But then someone else pointed out that Roddy White is 6'1", 200 pounds. So it's very unlikely anyone ever was able to force him to do something he didn't want to do. But this is a problem we have in general with lack of ability to put yourself in someone else's situation. It's happening all over the place. Where just because something doesn't affect me means it can't possibly affect you. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I have never been... I've actually been fired once because I was Irish. From my bartending job, I worked at an Italian restaurant for a guy from Italy who was away when I took the job, and because his dad had passed away, and he got back from Italy, and I was the only non-Italian or Brazilian person there, and a set of rules for me and a set of rules for everybody else. So, like, at the end of the night, everyone got to have a drink from the bar for free. I made them, and then I had to pay for mine if I wanted one. Right? I was the only person, and I was let go mainly because he didn't want an Irish guy in his restaurant. So that has happened to me before, but that's in small comparison to what happens to all sorts of other people if you just listen to their stories, right? But just this idea, and again, it's not just Roddy White, but he just encapsulated and, like, came over the top rope when nobody needed him to, nobody wanted him to. Like, it was unnecessary to do this. He could have just been like, I know Deshaun Watson, I find this very hard to believe. That would have been a fine statement. But to just say, nobody can ever force somebody to do something they don't want to is insane.
I got nothing. I can't even make a comment on that. That is, whew. If he was, like, close to the Hall of Fame, and he's really not, but if he was, like, that would delay him a year or two, potentially.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Yeah, but he, as someone said, Roddy White woke up this morning and decided to be the Twitter's main character of the day.
which is impressive considering the interesting Cardi B Candace Owens feud, part 18,000 or whatever the hell.
I'm more concerned that I don't think Candace Owens understands how lesbian sex works. I'm pretty sure that she has no idea how it works. from what she said.
Well, at least someone was watching the Grammys because I sure as hell wasn't.
I wasn't either, but I at least knew what happened. So, yeah. Besides, I'm more. I have to say that Cardi B's cousin really makes my heart beat faster. Anyway, with that of course being cardio.
Damn it! Damn it! There's no way I'm going to beat that one. There's just no way. I'm not even going to try.
That's a dad joke I've been thinking up for like days. So I'm not sure I set it up correctly or anything, but I just had to, cardio really gets my heart pumping. I'm
definitely going to be using that, and I might even lay claim to it as my own, or I might not.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm sure somebody else somewhere has come up with that joke first. If you did, and I haven't seen it, but if you did, I didn't steal it from you. But it's not really not that clever, but it's still funny.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It might be one of my new favorite puns, and I have a lot of them. One day I'll tell my favorite joke of all time, but that's for another time. When it's save
that for another time.
For another time, yeah.
Oh my goodness! I can't believe that. Sorry, I can't believe that happened. The Patriots re-signed David Andrews. That's ridiculous. I don't understand how the Patriots have all this money. Like, they had $60 million. They've signed half the league, and they still have, enough to sign the top remaining center on the market. It's very strange. I'm not quite sure how this has worked, but I'm just going to be excited when the Texans somehow trade Deshawn Watson to us for the 15th pick and a future 5th. So...
yeah, I'm still hoping he might land in New Orleans. Maybe Russell Wilson, but we'll see.
I just want him out of the Texans. And again, I have no idea whether any of this is true. If all this stuff is true, then we've completely misjudged him.
Well, we can reevaluate this in a week.
He's been hiding stuff everywhere, but it's just the fact that there's never been a peep about this. All his teammates are flabbergasted by it. And the timing of the whole thing just seems super suspicious.
And let's also be honest,
it's entirely possible I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put this out there. It's entirely possible I'm wrong, and these are legitimate allegations, and something actually happened. It's just weird it's happening now.
I do have to say, and I kind of said it before, if Deshaun was playing for any other team and had these type of issue and didn't have these issues, it just makes you far more skeptical because it's him and the Texans. It really does.
Yeah.
But
yeah, if he played for, I'm just picking a random team that has no thought to it. But if he played for the Carolina Panthers, you'd be thinking these allegations are. I'd be more willing to believe these allegations if we're playing for the Panthers than since he's playing for the Texans. I think you're right.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing to say, but to your point. Next week, we might be certainly changing our tune completely. We don't know. Innocent till proven guilty, but then you want to take an allegation like this seriously.
Yeah.
So
at the same time, don't be Roddy White.
Anyway, yeah, that's the I think really the hammer on the head here. Don't be Roddy.
Yeah, that's just silly. Anyway,
I got no good segue out of this, so I'll just.
I don't either. So where are we going to? Do you want to talk about? I guess quarterback to quarterback. You want to talk about your main man retiring?
Yeah, well,
was it 15 years?
15 years.
The day he came to New Orleans.
Yeah. Drew Brees will now be, especially with Tom Brady now re-signing. This cements, I can't see any other scenario where Drew Brees is not the headliner for the class of 2026. So selfishly, I kind of like this because I don't know how much more he's got left in the tank anyway. And New Orleans, my team's got to move on at this point. His age is starting to creep up, but as much as he didn't have the power and the arm strength of later years, his accuracy was still really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it was 6 times he led the league in pass completion percentage. And someone had asked me, I think it was Jack Silverstein, he asked me on Twitter, he says, explain to me how this guy was this good, because when you look at him, I just never saw it. And I guess as someone who's watched like virtually every Saints game, God, I've probably seen every game that he's played. Although ironically enough, the only time I got to see a Saints game live, he didn't play. That was the year they won the Super Bowl, and he took the game off, week 16 in Carolina. Whatever. I never felt out of it.
I was going to say, that's like I've told the one time I watched a Giants game and Barry Bonds took the day off and was in the on-deck circle when the game ended. So
that's right. Yes, you did tell that one. So
anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I never felt out of it because of Drew Brees. Brees wasn't going to win something with his athleticism, because if you just look at him, my buddy Dave always said this. I mean, like, if Drew Brees walked into the office, wouldn't you think he's an accountant? Like, kind of. You know, he's with the receding hair, but not super tall. I think he's like 6'1", if that. Doesn't.
Well, and I think that's exaggerated.
I think so too. So Brees wasn't he wasn't necessarily that guy who looked like a superstar, but he was. He was everything that you needed him to be. He didn't make a lot of mistakes, which is so important. Like look at Tampa. How did they get better with someone who has a much weaker passing arm? Because Winston made a lot of mistakes and Brady doesn't. Brees was also that type of guy up until last year, where he really stuck his foot in his mouth regarding the kneeling situation from, again, Yahoo Finance, really, as you brought up when that came out. Brees was practically off the field mistake free. That was really his first pick six off the field, right? I would say.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Particularly though after Katrina and everything he meant to the city after that, it was just so weird that he hadn't figured stuff out in year 14 at that point about why people were doing what they were doing. So anyway, continue.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was about to. I don't think people understand just how close Tom Benson was to giving up on the Saints in New Orleans. Drew Brees not signing there, we're not talking about the New Orleans Saints today. Maybe the San Antonio something or other, because Benson was looking at that, or a team in L.A. I mean, I had people asking me, like, okay, you're going to follow them when they go to another place. Like, that's how close this was. This was, and then after Katrina, Benson felt he couldn't do it. Signed a franchise quarterback, a franchise head coach, so two future Hall of Famers right there, and Sean Payton and Drew Brees. And everything turned around. Everything turned around. Also, everything became far more lucrative. New Orleans was a city just like kicked to the ass. And that's how I'm going to choose to remember Brees, not for how he had this one verbal gaffe and had a massive blind spot. Again, which is strange considering playing in the NFL. I don't know how that happens, but it did. I'm going to go past that and just sort of, for our purposes, when we talk about the Hall of Fame now, I think this hurts Phillip Rivers the most.
Yeah, so I have a list of the people who've retired so far this season up here. So even Wikipedia is a place I've gone for it because not everyone else is updated yet. But they divide it into notable retirements and other retirements. So the notable retirements they have are Drew Brees, 13-time Pro Bowler, 5-team All-Pro. Pretty good. 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl champ, Comeback Player of the Year, Walter Payton Man of the Year winner. And, yeah. All right. So we have Thomas Davis, Mike Iupati, who was a 4-time Pro Bowler and 2-time All-Pro, Marquise Pouncey, 9-time Pro Bowler and 5-time All-Pro, Mike Pouncey, 4-time Pro Bowler, Phillip Rivers, 8-time Pro Bowler, 2013 Comeback Player of the Year, Jason Witten, 11-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, 2012 Walter Payton Man of the Year. So those are the top ones. The other ones they have listed are Antoine Bethea, Anthony Costanzo, Patriot Patriot Hall of Famer Patrick Chung, Patrick DeMarco, Stephen Hauschka, Vance McDonald, Greg Olson, Donald Penn, Matt Schaub, Anthony Sherman, Alex Tanney, and Tramon Williams is retired from Green Bay, I think yesterday. So all of those people, I mean, clearly Brees is number one. I have to say Witten is probably a first ballot Hall of Famer too. He's third or fourth all time in receptions in the league?
Something like that.
For tight ends. I think it's Gonzalez and then him.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only other two people ahead of him are, and I'd have to look this up, do it off the top of my head, are Rice and Fitzgerald. So, so I'd say those two are 1 and 2. I don't know. Marquise Pouncey seems like the third one, if there is a third one, would you say?
Yeah, and then Rivers is number 4. And I've said this before, the narrative on Rivers, as good as he's been, the guy he replaced did better.
Yeah. Can you imagine the difference imagine if Miami, because Brees was going to go to Miami.
Right.
And Miami balked on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how it would have been with Brady and Brees going at it 2 times a year for the last 15 years.
But that also sort of...
That would have...
Yeah, but I mean, then also at the same time is Brady... Belichick helped to make Brady. Peyton really helped to make Brees. It's not this... and I'm a little too much of this butterfly effect sort of thing. Because then we have to assume then that Brees would have had the same exact career. And Miami's been so up and down.
True, but it's been up and down because their best quarterback over the last 15 years,
Cleo Lemon,
depending what you think of Tannehill, has been Chad Pennington. Or not, Jay Fiedler. I mean, Jay Fiedler has been their best, most consistent quarterback over the last decade and a half. It's different if you have Brees, and I understand Peyton helped make Brees. But I can guarantee you, even without Peyton, Drew Brees is better than Jay Fiedler.
This is true. I could be mistaken, but I think the best game that a Dolphins quarterback has had in the last 15 years, I think was this year with Fitzpatrick, who just keeps chugging along. Who did he just sign with?
The Washington football team.
Okay.
Yes, Fitz Magic. I was as a Patriots fan before we re-signed Cam Newton. I was kind of hoping for draft a rookie quarterback and just have Fitzpatrick handle things for a year. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you know what I saw today? Who is it? Caleb Haney, I think it is being released by the backup Lions quarterback is being released. Hold on, Lions release QB. Chase Daniel. Sorry, Chase Daniel. Yeah. Wrong former Bears quarterback. Chase Daniel's being released by the Lions. Chase Daniel's never been a starter in this league. Do you know how much money he's made in his career?
He was a former Saint. He was Brees backup for a bit.
He's been everyone.
Let's see. He's when was he even the backup for Brees? That was almost a decade ago.
Yeah, so Chase Daniel's 34. He's backup for Brees twice, 2009 to 2012, and in 2017.
All right, how much has he been paid over his career to hold a clipboard?
Yeah.
No, does it say how much?
So he has played a total of 69 games in his career, mostly with New Orleans in 2010, 2011, and 2012. He started none of those games, and most of those those seasons where he played 13 and 16 games, he had a total of 7 completions on 9 passes. He's been paid $31 million in his career.
But the laces have been out on every kick.
He has thrown 261 passes for a total of 1,694 yards with 8 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And has been paid $31 million. I'm telling you, man, I missed my calling as a backup QB.
It says, well, you ever see Blue Mountain State?
I have not.
Pretty much the main quarterback, nice. The main character is a backup quarterback who loves being the backup. He doesn't want to play. Because he wants nothing to do with that. I got to rewatch that. It's probably a little bit too raunchy now for today's television sensibilities. Or maybe just raunchy enough. I don't know. I guess moving on, we do have a bit of Hall of Fame news with the WWE Hall of Fame, a second inductee. Eric Bischoff, which in the late 90s, this would have been the equivalent of hell freezing over. This guy did everything he could to, and he'd said it, that he wanted to put the WWE out of business when he was the president of World Championship Wrestling. I don't think he gets enough credit because he did have a huge financial backing with Ted Turner and the whole Time Warner and everything there. So yes, he could pay other wrestlers more money, but at the same time, how many times, Evan, have we seen this in sports where you can sign the best players and it doesn't equate to anything?
Yeah, right. Because that WCW at that point was signing I'm trying to remember my bad thing. It was all the folks from the 80s, right? Like Hogan and Macho Man and all those folks, right?
Yeah, Hogan, Savage, Piper. And it was the creation of an invasion angle with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, the New World Order, that really turned everything around for them. And they beat Monday Night Raw in the ratings 83 weeks in a row. And for people to say, well, it was just because Bischoff spent a lot of money. Yeah, he did. But he also made them a ton, too, until everything sort of fell apart. He tried to buy WCW at the end when they went under. So it was 2001, and the executives at Time Warner just changed. Ted Turner didn't have the same power he used to. And they canceled wrestling on their shows. And so at that point, Bischoff probably could have bought the property, but he just said, what am I going to do with it if I don't have TV? WWE bought all the intellectual rights to it for something like only $2 million. That's it. Which included the whole tape library, everything. I mean, so many other wrestlers have said if they knew that they could get it for that little, they would have bought that themselves just for the tape library alone. Mm-hmm. But the most amazing thing is on a Monday Night Raw, I want to say 2002, Bischoff shows up as the new general manager of Monday Night Raw. And 5 years before, he went on a live pay-per-view in, I want to say Massachusetts, near where Vince McMahon lived, and challenged him to a fight. Said, "Come on down here. You want to fight me? I'll fight you right here." Which he meant. Stories go that either McMahon had to be talked out of it, if that was true, that's the right thing. You don't advertise the other person because that's stupid, right?
Right.
But
I think McMahon's from Connecticut, by the way. But go ahead, continue.
But Springfield, Mass. I mean, how far is that from?
Not far.
From New York City.
No, I mean,
because he's from Stamford, Connecticut, which is that's a suburb, right? Kind of.
Yeah. So I mean. Stamford to Springfield's probably an hour. New York City to Springfield depends on traffic.
Okay.
It's probably an hour 20.
But yeah, so it was a feasible thing that either way, I'm very happy that Eric Bischoff is going in. I am a big proponent of that. Actually, it's a good segue that I want to bring up something that one of our regular partners on our committees, Alec Tessitore, mentioned on a YouTube comment from last week. When you asked me, what woman do I think should be in the Hall of Fame next? And I answered Victoria. And I still think that she would make a good Hall of Famer. But Alec brought up a whole lot of other women. And one that he opened up with is the one that I can't believe I didn't say. And he's right. The most deserving female who's not in the WWE Hall of Fame is Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Who was so much of that package in the 80s. I don't think that character would ever get over now, the whole damsel in distress. But for that time, for that era, for her look, it was money. It was pure money.
Mm-hmm.
And she might be one of the few people who would sell. She was like selling tickets without and you knew she wasn't even going to wrestle. There was no chance that she was going to get physically involved or even talk. How does that happen?
I don't know. I mean, the Macho Man loved that woman.
Yes, he did. He did.
I do have to give credit, by the way, because he listed a whole bunch of people he thought might be inducted in his class, and one of them he mentioned was Eric Bischoff.
Oh, did he say that in that too?
He did in his second paragraph.
I should have reread that before.
It's going to be someone who he says his class feels like a Triple H project. So it's going to be someone who worked with him closely. And towards the end, he says, I mean, he has a whole list of people here, but he said Eric Bischoff is someone he'd look for. So good on him, particularly from what you said.
Okay.
And one other thing, by the way, NWO got elected in 2020.
Yes, so
Bischoff's now going to be going in with NWO.
No. It's kind of weird because the NWO, they're only going to induct 4 people from that, but it's 4 people who are already in.
Oh, okay.
So it's like they're only doing Hogan, Nash, Hall, and X-Pac, Sean Waltman.
Got it. Okay. I just saw that at the same time I was going back over the previous classes. So
yeah,
like I said, wrestling is definitively your ballywick on this podcast. So
yeah, that would mean Virgil would have been inducted. Oh, okay. Before we sort of go into the main event, there's this feud going on Twitter between Randy Orton and Soulja Boy.
Okay.
To which, our favorite wrestler or our favorite wrestling Twitter, the Iron Sheik, got involved.
Of course he did. Nice.
Yes. To which he said, Soulja Boy is the Virgil of rap.
Wow.
Something to that effect. In between his usual go fuck yourselves.
May he live forever.
Yes, or I hope so. I think I live for the Iron Sheik's Twitter feed.
All right, well, before we get to the main event, and there's no good way to segue this, should we just go through the people who passed this week?
Yes, we'll go to the people who did not live forever.
Did not live forever. Oh, there you go. That's the way to do it. All right, so we have a couple really big names. I'm going to save them towards the end. So I'm going to actually start with we lost a couple people from the XFL this week. So Calvin Jackson, who was Miami Dolphins cornerback for quite a while and was the starting quarterback for the Birmingham Thunderbolts back in 2001, passed away at the age of 48.
Damn.
Which is far too young for him to pass. But also Rusty Tillman passed away.
Oh, I remember him.
He was probably one of the first ever special teams, like in the mold of or Matthew Slater and Steve Task and all them. Tillman is one of the original guys who was just like a special teams demon and was a special teams coach all over the place, mostly in Seattle. He actually went from special teams coach to the defensive coordinator as a coach there for 15 years before he moved on in other places. But towards the end of his career, he actually was the head coach of the New York, New Jersey Hitmen of the XFL. So one of the 70 greatest Redskins of all time. Passed away at the age of 75. So.
Yeah, I remember that first game because it was called by Jesse the Body Ventura, and Tillman either didn't go for something like a 2-pointer or something.
Yeah, Jesse the Body Ventura called him a coward, and then went down the field to challenge him to a fight, and Tillman just turned his back and walked away on him.
Yeah, Tillman was having none of the theatrics. That was actually when Jesse was a governor.
Yep.
Which is crazy enough.
Yep.
Man, that XFL was such crap.
It was indeed. I hope the. It seems like they're trying to resurrect the. What was the one from last year? The AAFL, the one that got destroyed by COVID.
I thought it was the XFL 2. XFL 2.0.
Was that? I don't remember what it was called. Whatever it is, it looks like they made a deal with the Canadian Football League to maybe resurrect it in some way.
I don't like this at all.
What happened to that?
I do not like that at all.
Yeah.
I'll just go on record here. CFL. I don't know what your money situation is, and after because they're not the most profitable league, but they really found their identity after the failed expansion of the U.S. and Canadian patriotism just naturally increased. The Canadian Football League, I thought, kind of knew what it was. So if they're feeling they have to do this, that's not a good sign.
Probably not. But I just want them to bring back the Shreveport Pirates. Still my favorite Canadian Football League team. You know, the team in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Well, how about they bring back the Baltimore team so that way the Baltimore Football Club could feud with the Washington Football Team.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, that really paved the way for the Ravens to end up out there, so they should be excited about that. But yeah, Shreveport once had a professional team in the largest league in the country. So,
yeah, that's
on them,
I think that's on the city sign when you drive in.
It should be. They played it. I mean, that's where the Independence Bowl is, that's where they played, which is, a decent sized stadium, but still, come on, Canada. Where Des Moines wasn't available, Fargo, they're closer places. Anyway,
they were interesting selections, yes. But I guess moving on.
Yeah, moving on. So we lost. We did lose, I guess, an interesting person in history. Ronald Defeo Jr. passed away. He, the one who committed the horrors of the Amityville Horror, passed away at the age of 69 in prison. So the whole Amityville Horror thing with the book and everything, where he killed his mom, dad, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters. He's the one who started that whole thing back in, 74. But he is no longer with us, thankfully. It was just one of those, little people passed away, oh, yeah, wondered where that came from. I actually didn't know. And a completely different person. We lost Sally Grossman this week, who was known for 2 things. One, she was married to Albert Grossman, who ran Bearsville Records, which was a big record company in the mid-'70s into the early '80s, when her husband passed away. But I guess she's probably more known to music fans. If you remember Bob Dylan's Bringing It All Back Home album, There's a picture of a woman reclining the couch in a red dress behind him, and that was Sally Grossman. Dylan was at their house, and he's like, "We need someone for a shoot. Do you want to just sit back there?" And she said, "Sure, why not?" And it's one of the more iconic Dylan album covers, if you remember that one at all.
Did he say it like this? I need someone for a shoot. Sorry.
I want to hear a conversation between your Wayne Gretzky and your Bob Dylan.
Oh God! Well, okay. My Wayne Gretzky is basically almost every hockey player. They're not much different. I just know a lot of Wayne Gretzky quotes, so it kind of works.
Yeah. So anyway, Sally Grossman passed away at the age of 81. We also lost Reggie Warren, lead singer for the R&B duo Troop. He passed away. He had a few hits back in the 70s. Into the early 80s as well. I'm sorry, most of the 80s. So they hit the R&B chart in 1990 at number 1 with "Spread My Wings," "All I Do Is Think of You," and "Sweet November" in 92. So they had 3 number 1 R&B hits. They had number 2 with "Mamacita" and a few others. They were not that. They never really made it on the main U.S. charts. I guess "All I Do Is Think of You" did hit, but they were pretty big in the R&B realm. But he passed away Reggie Warren passed away at the age of 52 earlier this week. We also had Paul Jackson, bassist for a whole bunch of people, most notably Santana for a while, and he was also, but everybody was in Santana for a while. But he also was with the Pointer Sisters. He spent some time with Herbie Hancock. Just one of those guys who's around on a whole bunch of albums that you probably listened to without knowing who he was. But he passed away today, actually, at the age of 73. We also lost one of the best Paralympic swimmers in American history, Curtis Lovejoy, passed away at the age of 63. He won two golds in Sydney, and silver and bronze in Athens. In gold in Sydney, 50-meter freestyle, 100-meter freestyle, and a silver and bronze in Athens in 50-meter freestyles. But he was one of the best Paralympic swimmers in U.S. history. Died from blood cancer. So he actually was swimming all the way through earlier this year when he was forced to retire because of the blood cancer. He was inducted in the Atlanta Sports Hall of Fame back in 2019. So he was also a flag bearer for the U.S. in the 2015 Para-Pan American Games. So then we lost possibly the greatest female race car driver currently alive, passed away this week, Sabine Schmitz. Do you know who Sabine Schmitz was?
No, I'm not familiar with her.
So Sabine Schmitz was known as the Queen of the Nürburgring. She was the first and still only woman to win the 24 hours on the Nürburgring in Germany, which is one of the big deals. And not only she won it, she won in back-to-back years.
Damn.
So she was also a host on Top Gear. If you ever watched Top Gear.
I'm familiar with the show, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, she was jokingly also called the fastest taxi driver in the world, which is what she used to do before she started racing. But just absolutely wonderful personality, loved racing, fun to listen to, and clearly one of the greatest racers was not someone who, there are times you feel like women are put in there as tokens. Never, ever. She was just one of the best. Also one of the first female owners, the outright owners of a racing team. She retired in 98 or 99 from the racing and had one in, I think it was 2004, 2005. She founded her own group and they won, they got third place in Nürburgring. But just a big figure, particularly in international motorsports. Passed away, unfortunately, only at the age of 51. She died from cancer, very fast-moving cancer. Well, she had it and it was away, and then it came back, and she was only 51 when she passed away, which was a big loss. Like pretty much all of F1 and Europe was very, very upset about that. So, Godspeed, and I mean speed, to Sabine Schmitz. I have a couple of people I want to talk about, but I do want to say that the Beige Mistress spared the Hungarian sports stars, but did take Hungarian voice actor Gyula Szerszén at the age of 81.
Who did he voice?
Finally, yeah, I don't know. It's the only one I could find.
Oh.
I do want to talk about one other actor very quickly. Yaphet Kotto died. Do you remember Yaphet Kotto?
Yeah. He was, I forget the name of that kid. Like, he was like in so many movies. It was Alien, Running Man. Just one of those actors that just popped up everywhere.
Yeah, I think of him mostly from, oh my God, what can't I think of the name of the show? From Homicide, Life on the Street. And one of the things I loved about him in that is, he played Lieutenant Al Giardello, who was modeled after an existing detective who was actually Sicilian. And so they started, they cast him in the role, and they're going to change the name. And the writer's like, no, let's just keep him being Sicilian. And they just never explained how the black guy was Sicilian. And he just used, like, the Sicilian, like, phrases and everything. And it was just kind of amazing. Like, he was so good, you didn't question it. Like, he was clearly adopted or, something.
Well,
it was just awesome that he just played the Sicilian detective on Homicide. I always loved it.
It's like Morgan Freeman on Shawshank Redemption. Why did they call you Red? On the account of that I'm Irish. and it's like, okay, none of this makes any sense, and you don't give a shit.
You don't give a shit. Shawshank is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, but so he was amazing. That was the one I think of most. Of course, there was also, Raid on Entebbe, where he won. He was nominated for Primetime Emmy Award. And just one of those people was like Midnight Run. I loved him in Midnight Run.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
There's just so many things that he showed up and you're like, oh, good. And of course, Parker in Alien. So every time he showed up, I was excited about it. And I'm sad he passed. I was glad to see he got to do. He passed in the Philippines, by the way.
Oh.
He died somewhere near Manila, but he was 81 when he passed away. And finally, we got two people from Boston, the Boston area, one of whom is big news to the world, one of whom is very specific to Boston. I want to start with him. And that's Dick Hoyt. Do you know who Dick Hoyt was?
Nope.
So there's a statue of Dick Hoyt in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, which is where the Boston Marathon starts. Dick Hoyt has a son, Rick Hoyt, who has cerebral palsy. Oh,
okay. I know who you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And for 35 years, Dick Hoyt pushed his son in the carriage thing to through the race and everything like that. And just a wonderful guy, raised tons of money, not just for cerebral palsy, but all sorts of causes. A genuinely good human being. And he was going to retire the year of the marathon bombing, but came back one more year to help raise money for those who were injured. But there's a statue of them right next to the start of the marathon now out in Hopkinton. He's a member of he and his son, or as they call him, Team Hoyt, were inducted to the Ironman Hall of Fame in 2008. They won the Jimmy V Perseverance Award at the ESPY Award Show in 2013. And he's just an awesome dude. And so I'm sorry to hear he passed. He was 80 years old. He passed in his sleep out in Holland, Massachusetts, earlier this week. And then finally, of course, the second most famous boxer from Brockton, Massachusetts. Just saying something. The most famous boxer from Brockton, Massachusetts, for those wondering, is Rocky Marciano. 59-0, undefeated. Hard to argue that he's not the greatest boxer. But Marvelous Marvin Hagler makes a very, very good choice for, I wouldn't necessarily say two, but one very slight A in boxing history. That's pretty good for one little place.
Hagler was part of that group of fighters that really brought back attention to the lighter weights. Him, the three guys he fought, Duran, Leonard, and Hearns. I remember actually seeing, I forget why, we must have been on the road somewhere, and the hotel had HBO, and it was showing the Hagler versus Mugabe fight, which was the second last time he ever fought. So right there, because I never really saw Marvin Hagler fight before. I'm sure he did, but nothing really stuck, because I would have been only an early teen at the time. So I remember, but I knew he was a real big deal. But the first time I saw him, holy crap! He just looked mean. He looked like what you expect a boxer to look. And there wasn't also a lot of guys with shaved heads back then either.
True. That is very true.
So it certainly
just think of Clyde Drexler his entire career.
Yeah.
You don't believe it.
Yes. Oh, God. Hell, just looking back at some of the funny basketball, baseball, hockey cards, all the things of people just not accepting their hair loss well.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones with toupees. Didn't Rick Barry have a toupee?
Probably. That seems, if it's not true, that seems like one of the most Rick Barry facts I've ever heard. So
I think I read something from Bill Simmons about, I could be wrong, but it does seem right. Nevertheless, yeah, Hagler, and I remember watching again that fight with Leonard. I didn't get to see that one live, but somehow that was on they put that on free TV a few weeks later, probably on ABC. It might have been a Wide World Sports thing. And that's when Hagler lost in what was considered a controversial decision to Leonard. And I remember watching that fight. I got to rewatch that one again, thinking, well, Hagler clearly won. But, God, I don't know. I mean, I was clearly biased. I'd have to rewatch it all and see what I think. But he never got that money rematch. Apparently, he just went to Italy and acted. And then by the time Leonard said, oh, yeah, I'm ready to fight you now, it's like, nah.
Yeah, they offered him $15 million. He's like, I'm good. I don't need to come back.
$15 million in what, 1989? Like, that's insane.
Yeah. It's a lot of money.
And he never fought again?
I mean, he never fought again. He was 62-3-2 in his career.
Mm-hmm.
He won every fight before the Leonard fight, which he lost by decision. He won every fight from 1976, which was fight number 29 for him, to he had one draw against an Italian guy named Vito Antuofermo, whoever that person is.
Well, but he avenged that loss or that draw because he defended the title because against him.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the Garden in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he didn't lose from 1976 to 1987, which was from fight 29 to fight 67. That's a long time to go without losing.
Yeah, and there was no more dominant champion. And just to put in perspective how good he was and then how big something else that you and I are going to be talking about later, he didn't make our list as a nominee.
He did not. It's crazy.
It is.
He was very, very close for me, but he did not make it.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we should go right into that.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right. So if you listened last week or were you following us in any capacity, Evan and I saw a void in the Halls of Fame. There's not a United States Athletic Hall of Fame.
It's weird that think of how many thousands of Hall of Fames are in this country. Literally probably tens of thousands of Halls of Fame for everything from the big ones we handle to I don't even know, just like individual high school Halls of Fame,
mm-hmm.
right? There's literally tens of thousands of them. And yet there is no national sports Hall of Fame for the country. Crazy.
Now, needless to say, Evan and I were not in a position to sort of take bids from prospective cities. So this lives in it lives in Onlineville, USA.
For now. Anyway.
For now. And we said at the start, we're going to be super transparent. And that means we're going to talk to all of you about the highs and the lows and the mistakes we're making along the way. We're not afraid to talk about that. We want this to be better. We want it to be something truly for the people, by the people, and celebrating what all of you think. The way I envision it, the U.S. Hall to me might mean something differently than it does to you, Evan, and to everyone out there. For some people, it might be very political. For some people, it may not be. There's not a wrong answer for this. There isn't.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have to say, I mean, we'll go through the process, and again, there's little mistakes we've made here along the way, but we're just two dudes. Mm-hmm. So we are doing the best we can in figuring this out. I hope that at some point this becomes a larger operation than it is right now. But hey, you got to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely. And we'd say that we did this all in our basements, but in the house I live in, I don't have a basement. I guess you don't really need that in the Caribbean. So
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you just said at the end.
Well, I just said, I guess you don't really need a basement in the Caribbean. So like it's not like we could really say that it started in a basement somewhere. That just seems very incel type, and we're both happily married people, so not to each other, but
so no, you don't want to start the basement. It has to have started in a garage.
In a garage. Oh, that's right. That's where all startups are. There's not a lot of garages in here either. Yep. So the first,
I do have a garage. So if I need to like get framed photos of all the people in and like post them on my garage wall, I suppose I could do that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, none of us have actually met. Not any of us have met each other. None of us in the group that we put together.
That is entirely true. Actually, hadn't Chris and Anyway,
actually, that's true. Sorry, they know each other. That's different. So there are people who definitely know each other personally.
Correct.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So some of the people that we assembled, and we wanted to get a diverse group of people. We wanted to get something that translated into American. In some ways we were successful, in some ways we weren't. And we're still hoping to make that better as we go. But here's some of the names that we got. Someone who I've become quite fond of, just a great guy the more I talk to him, Wayne Mabry, the Violator. Two-time
recent Hall of Famer.
Yes, and it's a second Hall of Fame because he's already been.
I didn't realize.
Yeah. So this is his second fan Hall of Fame. This one in conjunction with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So it's a pretty big deal. So if you think you don't know who he is, if you've seen a Raiders game, you know who he is. He's pretty much the head person in that black hole, and hopefully we'll be seeing him at a Death Star. Makes me want to see a Raiders game before that.
He is, as someone from across the country, like Raiders games are as far away from Patriots games as you can possibly get in this country, pretty much. Maybe Chargers games are further away, but that's about the only one. I just seemed like a maniac on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. And I've never been more wrong about my opinion of somebody just from the way they look. Now, the way they looked in face paint with spikes on their shoulder versus the way they actually are. He is one of the nicest people I think I've ever met in my entire life. So it's very, very cool. If nothing else, it was cool that I actually got to talk to him.
So do you want to mention some of the other members?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so then we've got... young gentleman we talk about all the time, Vinnie Los Panuso. He brings sort of the youth vote to everything. He's going to be graduating Hofstra sports journalism shortly. Hopefully we're going to be seeing him Sundays covering NFL games. That's his dream. And he might be more passionate about Halls of Fame than you and I put together. That sounds a lot.
He definitely has. He's definitely done more research. I'm better at putting together lists and thinking about things. But when it comes to people born 110 years before he was, he has ridiculous lists of worthy seniors in basically any category he can come up with. I'm absolutely amazed at the depth of that knowledge for him.
Oh, it's crazy.
Particularly for someone as young as he is.
It's absolutely crazy. We've got two Olympians, former Olympic bronze medalists, which is, again, really incredible. Chris Huffins, who won the bronze in the decathlon in the 2000 games.
Mm-hmm.
And through him, he brought two other great people. Dan Steele, another decathlete, but he won his bronze in the bobsled.
Yep.
So two bronze medalists right there. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, two other very, very interested people in this. It was great to, like, I've said this before, but when we started coming up with the idea of putting together a committee, I asked a couple of people I knew who were in it. I did not ask my brother intentionally, just because he was very busy. My brother just retired as the Notre Dame play-by-play guy and the head of sports media at Notre Dame. But I asked some people I knew and didn't really come up with anyone who was willing to put in a commitment. All I said was we were going to need like one Zoom call and for people to list 100 names. and the people who I knew weren't particularly interested in it. So I was like, oh, this isn't going to be a big deal. And then we had the Zoom call, and I was like, oh, we got 2 Olympians, the Violator, and an NFL player, plus a few others who we knew. I was like, maybe this is more serious than I thought it was.
Yeah, and Chris really came through with another person who, because we felt that we weren't having a lot of adequate, which we certainly fixed since then, female representation. So he brought, because he's coaching right now, coaching track at IUPUI.
Mm-hmm.
And that brought Marissa Chu, who coaches also track there at IUPUI. So we certainly have that demographic, which that was the first step in bringing that aboard. Not through her, but I actually found someone right here in Barbados. She wasn't as part of the Zoom call, but she sort of added some input later for a couple people that we forgot, namely Cynthia Cooper as a nominee. Former basketball player at Pace University. She was in the Division II Final Four, and their point guard, Celia Collymore, who I'm not sure if she won this. I have to ask her next time I see her. She was in the running for the top athletic trainer in this country. I don't know if she won. I know I voted for her, of course. But,
yeah.
No.
Again, it was great. One of the things that we wanted to point, I want to point this out now. One of the things we didn't want with the nominating committee was a whole bunch of people who looked like us.
Right.
And by us, I mean white dudes in their 40s. Because that tends to be the vast majority, although to be fair, we're probably young for most of the Hall of Fame nominating committees. But that tends to be the vast majority of people on these committees. We wanted some actual athletes as opposed to us who are played sports at different points in our career, but were certainly nowhere near professionals.
I scored a goal with my ass once.
That's very impressive.
Yes.
I ski raced in the same race as Bodie Miller once.
Oh. So you've got me beat.
But yeah, Bodie's a year older than me, but his mountain and my mountain are the closest two ski mountains in New Hampshire to each other geographically, but there's a big notch in the middle. So he was in the Southern League, I was in the Northern League. So it's very, very rare that Bodie and I were in the same, because he's a year older, so it was every 2 years. So every once in a while we'd race Cannon. I raced for Bretton Woods. Yeah, so anyway. I can't pretend I know Bodie Miller. I know legend of him. So
well, it works.
And I did race against him once. I also used to ice skate on half the ice where Nancy Kerrigan was on the other half of the ice. I was the only boy in my little kid's figure skating class, and Nancy Kerrigan rented out the other half of the ice. So 2 brushes with Olympians who would not be able to pick me out of a lineup. So anyway, but no, we wanted to make sure we had not just that, but we wanted to make sure we had women involved. We wanted to make sure we had African Americans involved. We wanted to make sure we had Asian Americans involved. The one thing we didn't find someone willing to commit at this point, we didn't have anyone from the Latino community,
right,
which is something that we are still looking for. That was not intentional. Just nobody who we asked wanted to commit to this. Because we only had, 12 on the committee ultimately? Was that what it was?
Initially, yeah, which is added a couple more since. So hopefully when we have our second meeting to sort of discuss things going forward, it'll be a little bit bigger. And, yeah, a little bit more diverse than what we have it. So, yes, we wanted to avoid a lot of people who look like us. I did see, and I think I told you this before, I don't know if that's still the case now, but I looked at the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame and their chair people. For a country as forward-moving or forward-thinking as Canada, I was surprised to see they're all white. I mean, I know we're kind of a whiter nation, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very shocking to me, and we said right at the start we were not going to make that mistake. We haven't, and it's going to get better and better. If someone's asking if we have anyone of the LGBTQ community, I don't know. I don't think so. These are all people who were passionate about Halls of Fame. I didn't ask it. A lot of these people, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's highly possible. Yeah, we didn't. That never came up. I never asked.
No,
but again, If anyone from that community wants to be involved, very much in favor of that. I'd also like some people who have some information. Actually, I have a couple people I want to ask now that I've thought about it. So I donate to an organization every month called Dare to Try, which is out here in Chicago. And so they started as an organization that gives money, or that was setting up athletic sort of activities and competitions for people coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq with injuries, both body parts or people who are blind who came back, situations like that, setting stuff up because that's one of the toughest things, just missing camaraderie and stuff. So, but it sort of developed into a big, almost training ground for a lot of the U.S. Paralympic teams out of there. So I would love someone from the Paralympic community. I'm going to reach out to them. I'm talking about this out loud. It's occurred to me. Mm-hmm. I'd love someone from that part of sports to be involved in our group as well, because one of the people, I'm the only one who voted for Driscoll. I can't think of her first name right now.
Gene?
Gene Driscoll. Yeah. I was the only person in our committee who voted for Gene Driscoll. I think that having some folks like that it's something that's going to be coming shortly. So, I mean, she's a 7-time. It's not surprising because I am from Boston. She won the Boston Marathon 7 straight years in my from the time I started paying attention to marathon, from the early to mid 90s. But yeah, so I know I was the only one who nominated her, but I would love more people from that community involved as well. So anyway, we've gone away from who else is on the committee. We need to give everyone else credit.
So I guess going back to the lack of diversity, but these are people that we've gotten to know through our mutual love of Halls of Fame. David Whitlock, who has a blog I actually enjoy, LHD on sports. And yep, David does the Sportsman of the Week, which I guess is your maybe where you got the anti-sportsman of the week.
The yin to my yang, yes. I may have seen that and subconsciously did it. I didn't intentionally do that. I was just trying to come up with a name that wasn't a-hole.
Well, yeah, because I don't think we wanted to say, hey, so Evan, let's talk about your asshole this week. It just... it may not be some places we want to go.
Yeah, no, not what I was going for.
Mm-hmm.
So
then we have Glenn Pazlowski from Buffalo, who is a triathlete, and Glenn's also very passionate about that. Next time I go to Toronto, him and we have to go to catch a Sabres game. So Glenn's brought a lot of input on the world of triathletes that I'm not really thinking about.
No, not at all.
But I mean, if there's,
but we had some triathletes make our final list,
yes,
which I wasn't expecting. So
2,
good for him.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Which is 2 more than I could name coming in.
Yeah.
So
well, and Glenn's brought someone also that who wasn't in our first meeting, but is now part of our Twitter group and will be part of everything moving forward. And I'm really excited about her, Amanda Janover. Amanda is the head soccer coach at, what's that school? Villa Maria College in Western New York. She's not just the women's soccer coach. She's also the director of athletics.
Oh, wow.
So we've got another, I consider her to be a high-profile female voice on this. I'm assuming they know each other through the triathlon. It must. Oh, yeah, I'm even reading here. Yes, of course. Of course she does. How does she not? And we have a 7-time Pro Bowler, Richmond Webb.
And NFL Hall of Fame semifinalist this year.
For our group, yes. Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, it was only our group?
Yes.
I think, well, he should have been a semifinalist overall.
Now I don't remember.
Hold on. I thought he was overall. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Because I think Willie Anderson got that spot.
Possible. Hold on.
But while you're looking that up, I'll stock up more of his accolades. Member of the Miami Dolphin Honor Roll.
Yeah.
I mean, that says it all right there. You're honored in one of the great franchises in pro football. Protected Dan Marino.
You are correct, by the way.
I'm correct?
Sorry, you're correct. Richmond Webb was only on our list and not the semifinalist list for that. them. So anyway, continue.
Yeah, so that is our group for now. We're hoping it's going to expand. We're hoping we're going to fill a few other categories that we don't have. And if this is something that you think you could bring to us, we would love to have that. As we said earlier, Evan and I want to make this as transparent as possible. When we know when at the end of this, we're going to actually post the complete results of everything. People can vote every day. We might change that. Don't know. Because we're trying to mimic.
Like I said, this is the first time we're doing it.
Yeah.
I think we should keep that consistent, though. Like, at least for this first one, unless there's someone completely screwing up the system or figures out a way around it. I think that we should keep. Maybe we change that for next year. But I think unless there's some massive odd fraud that we can detect going on, I think we should keep it consistent all the way through this year. That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, and that could very well be the case because certain groups might champion certain people. And we admit that we forgot, and you actually brought up a great name that none of us thought of, but I guess before we sort of go there, what we did is we just sort of like put an internal vote, an internal conversation. So we came up with 130 names. Originally it was going to be 100. We're going to have 50 that's going to go through in the first class because, well, God, I mean, how do you pick just a few for this?
Yeah, and plus it's the USA Hall of Fame. We're going back. I mean, Jack Johnson's on the list, and he was the champion fighter in, 1900, 1901? Something like that. So we're going back. People are 150 years for some of these people being born and coming in here. So, if you only had the cut's going to be brutal anyway. They're going to be people who are not going to make this, who are definitely deserving.
No, for sure.
But like, one of my coworkers voted today, and he's like, "My God, this first row has Hank Aaron, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Muhammad Ali, and I only get 25 votes."
No, it's absolutely insane. So I guess there's something moving forward that could be controversial. So I guess we'll address that now because it's going to come up later again. We elected in our group because originally we said, okay, when do we make the announcement? And I think I don't remember who said it at first, but the first thing you think about is July 4th. And I think it was actually me who suggested that we do Juneteenth instead. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Evan and I.
What was your reason for that? Because I remember it was you as well. Okay. What was your reason for that?
Well, I had two. I had two big reasons. One is this is the newest national holiday, or it's likely going to be.
Yeah.
And the second, and it's. I guess it's sort of slightly selfish in this aspect. There's not a sporting event tied to this day. Why not this one? Yeah.
And I also do want to say one of the things that I thought was a good idea was it shows the diversity of sports and the fact that everyone has helped build it within the country. So I know it's a little bit weird that we're two white guys in our 40s talking about this and at Juneteenth. But when you brought it up in the group, what was the group's reaction?
All positive.
Overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, overwhelmingly positive. So we think that that's the way moving forward. And to anyone, like let's say Black and White Sports picks up on this, which is I don't know, have you ever seen them?
I've seen stuff from them.
Okay, so they're, I guess, right-wing sports, and sometimes they say some things I find interesting, and sometimes they don't. I'll just sort of like say so anyone who's like, again, right-wing, again, we want this for everybody. Forget what Evan and I think politically. It's irrelevant to what we think this is supposed to be. This is supposed to be American sports based on what you feel that it is. But just remember, too, that a very right-wing personality, certain president, in his platinum plan, wanted to make Juneteenth a national holiday.
He did.
He did. So I did think, though, today about something that could potentially happen.
Okay.
Ty Cobb getting in. Because Ty Cobb made our nomination cut. And Ty Cobb has been linked with a lot of racist ideology. Or just out racism, not ideology. Is that an affront to people, or is that just, this is what this is? And Cobb, I don't even know this guy. It's something I only thought of like a few hours ago. But it's hard. I mean, we don't know obviously we don't know what he's thinking. He's been dead for how many years?
A lot.
Yes, quite a lot of years. But he was the best pure hitter in the first 40 years of organized baseball. We'll let you all, and you know what? We're going to let all of you decide what that means. I will admit, because my votes are equal to everyone else's. My first go around, I didn't vote for him, and that was the reason. When I do another vote, because we can't vote every day.
60, he's been dead for 60 years.
60 years. Okay.
I voted twice now. I voted yesterday and I voted today. I have not voted for Cobb either time, and that has nothing to do with his political ideology. I just feel that there are, believe it or not, better players because you only have 25 votes, right? So if I'm going to vote for, I have trouble voting for like 8 baseball players if I only have 25 votes. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel that at least some combination of Jackie Robinson, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Ted Williams, and of course my favorite pitcher of all time, as I've always said, if I could draft anyone from baseball history, and I have the first pick in the overall draft, Bob Gibson's my first pick.
Right. Yeah, and
so there's 5. And I haven't even mentioned Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, like all these guys. So Cobb falls in that second group there.
Which is crazy.
So I don't think we're going to have a problem with Cobb getting in this first time. I think there are too many other people. Now that we've talked about it, maybe. I think it's much more likely Barry Bonds or Pete Rose get in than it is
I think so.
Ty Cobb get in.
Yeah, and this is what this is really all about. It's about these discussions, and again, Evan and I we're 2 sports nerds, you know, with a passionate idea, and we're trying to make something from it, and we'll walk you through the process. Like, we'll tell you like one mistake that we made. And actually, it's funny. Ted caught that too. Before, I don't even know if he was listening to when no, he wouldn't have, because we never aired that. You mentioned that we forgot a pretty big one that could have been possibly nominated in skateboarder Tony Hawk.
Yeah, so there was my wife found a tweet this week that came out. She said that proof that Superman could hide as Clark Kent by putting on an ascot and some glasses is proved by the fact that Tony Hawk exists.
And there's something to it. I think
you take the skateboard away from Tony Hawk, and he just looks like a normal dude. His entire Twitter feed is like, going through customs. Oh, your name's Anthony Hawk, like the skateboarder. He's like, Tony Hawk, huh? He goes, yeah. He goes, I wonder what that guy's doing right now. Tony Hawk goes, this? So. And
yeah, because he qualifies, because to qualify, you've got to be 50. That's really our only threshold. Just to try and keep everything sort of even. So if you're wondering, hey, where's Tiger Woods? He's not 50.
Right. Where's Tom Brady? My guy said, oh, Brady's not even on here. I said, Brady may play till he's 50, but he ain't there yet.
Yeah.
So
like that's the one big thing. So if you're wondering why so and so isn't there, either if you realize that person's under 50, there's your answer. They're going to be.
Yeah, and that honestly happened in our groups of 100 because we're all trying to come up with this, and not everyone's quite sure when everybody was born. So we had a few votes for Tammy Granado, who was born in 1971. So she reached 50 this year. But we have you have to be 50 coming into the year.
Right.
So it has to be born 1970 or before. So Tammy Granado got some. Peekaboo Street got some, and she's born in 71. Shaq got a few. He's born in 72. So there are a few people who got some votes that ended up not counting because, again, we're doing this for the first time.
We made a few
mistakes. To the best
mistakes.
of their abilities.
Yeah.
But they'll be up next year. But for this year, even though they got votes, it doesn't count because they didn't make qualifications.
Mm-hmm. And one thing, though, we're also going to be monitoring is we want to make sure that there's female representation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important.
That we don't want to have our first class, or maybe we do. I don't know how we want to do that. And I think that should be a question that we address to the women in our group, really, is do we want to sort of like have the highest ranked female get in if none of them are in the top 25? And I don't know that answer.
Well, none of them are top 50 because we're doing 50.
50, sorry.
I have a hard time believing that with the way this is going, none of the top 50 will be female. I don't think it's a problem we're going to necessarily have to deal with.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. But I mean, there are just so many, particularly people like Jackie Joyner-Kersee or Florence Griffith Joyner or Althea Gibson. Someone who I voted for both times, by the way, is Babe Dickerson-Zaharias, who has a very good chance of being forgotten just because she died so long ago, but she was a 3-sport athlete and probably the first great female athlete in this country. So it's possible that someone like her gets forgotten, but there are just so many other, particularly track stars. I know Althea Gibson's a tennis player, but like Martina Navratilovan's in there. Mary Lou Retton is on the list. I just feel like 2 or 3 of them are going to make it. And again, and being full disclosure, we had a list of 100 athletes that we all turned in. We wanted to make sure we had female representation, so we required at least 15 to be female of the list that we put in.
I didn't. The way I remember it too, Evan, I don't think anyone really had a problem with that. I mean, everyone was very receptive to that, so there was zero pushback from our group.
No, so we were trying to come up with it, and I think originally someone said 10, and we're like, well, I think 15 seems a little bit better. And I was like, yeah, that seems absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Because there are none of the women who have shown up in this list are like, what is that person doing here? Like, it is interesting. I think the most interesting person on our list is Tracy Ruiz.
I thought so too.
Who's a synchronized swimmer. Just by definition of the fact she's a synchronized swimmer seems to indicate that more people would be involved. But she didn't like sneak over the line.
No,
she had a significant amount of support for people. I was not one of the people who voted for it because, again, no offense to Tracy Ruiz, synchronized swimming isn't something that reaches my radar generally. But there were multiple people, like 5 or 6 of us voted for Tracy Ruiz to be on this ballot. And she made it over our threshold easily. So who knows? Or maybe there are a whole bunch of other people out there who who think Tracy Ruiz is in it. But that's the thing. I just don't think – I'm hoping we don't have that problem. There are 130 candidates. How many are women? Do you know?
I don't remember exactly, but 25, I think.
So 25 are women out of 130. I mean, statistically, we should have like 4 or 5. So I'm hoping that's the situation. If we don't, we have to be honest about that. We have to figure out what we do. Right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the thing. That's what's making us different from the Rock Hall. Because the Rock Hall is like the most gerrymandered hall outside probably the WWE Hall. The WWE Hall is supposed to be gerrymandered. But outside of that...
Is it really gerrymandered if it's always the same person?
Yeah, that's true. But they tend to like figure out backdoor ways to get people in. Whether they create a whole new category of the singles category that like no one had ever knew was going to happen before it got announced, right? Like they figure out weird ways to get people in. I don't want to do that, but at the same time, we have to figure out what happens if no women are inducted, because women's sports have been a major part of this country's athletic history. We've had great female athletes. Like we only have one female soccer player on there right now, Michelle Akers.
But that's going to change.
Who's the other I don't think she's getting in, but she was this time. But she was the first dean of like soccer in the U.S. I think Mia Hamm will be our first female soccer player in. I think she's born in 72, so she's got a couple more years before she gets there. But just think about female soccer, like way more dominant than our men's team. Our Olympic basketball, way more, well, not more dominant than our men's team, but just as dominant as our men's team. Women's hockey, again, Olympics, only 2 Olympic countries count in women's hockey. And Tammy Granado, I suspect, would be the first women's hockey player when she's eligible, like we said, next year. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we want to be in a situation, again, all the track stars we talked about and tennis players and everyone else. And gymnasts. I don't think we want to be in a situation where we don't have any, but I have enough trust in our voting public that I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, and also tennis.
Oh, yeah, well, tennis as well, of course. I think I said tennis, but if I didn't, yes, of course, tennis.
Yeah, I mean, like, right there, I mean, is there any doubt in your mind, in my mind, that when Serena's eligible, she's not getting in first ballot?
Of course she is.
I would think.
She better.
Well,
and that's the other thing, too. For this ballot, people who don't get in on this first ballot, even though we're taking 50 out of 130, like, Marvelous Marvin Hagler didn't make it on this list. The dude, we just looked it up. He was 62-3-2 in his career. Yes. He didn't lose for over 10 years, and he still didn't make it. There's so many great people on this ballot that not making it this first ballot is in no means a slap in the face. This is one of those times where it's an honor just to be nominated. It's legitimately true.
Mm-hmm. We think so.
Like if you're one of the 130, again, we're just 12 people, but if you're one of the 130 people on this list, on the athletes list, out of let's just call it 130 years for the lack of a better number of U.S. sports history, and brings us back to 1890s. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So join us on this journey, because that's really what this is. When we're making big decisions, we'll tell you about it. We're not trying to hide anything. We don't want to. We wanted, because that's the thing that you and I hate the most about most of these halls. I mean, the Rock Hall, we have no idea who the voters are. Zero. Baseball, there's just so much pomposity towards the hall voters. It's become disgusting. I think you and I would agree that
I can guarantee Pete Rose and Barry Bonds will be in our hall before they're in the baseball hall.
I guarantee it. Yeah. I don't know who first.
I think Rose.
Could be.
Rose has got more of a national call behind him. Too many people remember Barry Bonds being a prickly jerk. Mm-hmm. It's possible everyone in San Francisco gets behind him, and maybe Pittsburgh. But I'd say that I think Rose gets in first.
Yeah, we don't know, and we're gonna every speed bump you're gonna all hear about.
Yep.
And
this is going to be the most interactive hall, because we don't. Not to say we don't know what we're doing, but we're doing the best we can.
Well, you know what? Well, we've often said how many times other halls don't know what the hell they're doing. We're just going to admit that sometimes we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. So, but at least we're going to be honest about it along the way. And if something works, if something doesn't work, I want to make sure that we're upfront about it. Honesty being the best policy. So.
No, for sure. And we think this could be something really special. And, the great thing, too, you don't even have to be that big a sports fan. Like, there's a lot of people, you mentioned Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali means a lot to a lot of people who may have never even seen him fight. And you might just want to vote just for him, and that's fine. Actually, whatever you do is fine.
Yeah. I mean, the one reason we have the nominating committee is just to make sure we don't have weird constituencies trying to put somebody in as a joke.
Mm-hmm. Which could happen.
The job of the nominating committee is to be a doorkeeper to make sure we have appropriate people up there. And we're going to miss some. along the way. We just are, by definition, not going to get everybody. It's like, and there are going to be people who show up on some people's ballots and not other people's ballots, right? Because they prioritize one thing over another. And that's one of the great things. Like I said, there are a couple of triathletes on here who I don't know anything about. So I didn't vote for any triathletes this time because I don't know anything about triathletes. There's also something that isn't on this list at all, which is maybe something certain segments are going to be upset about. There are no WWE wrestler types on here either.
But nor should there be. And I'm a wrestling guy, you know that.
At some point, are people going to say, hey, they're athletes too? I don't know.
Well, they are athletes, but they're also competing or performing in predetermined outcome, which I guess then should exclude all figure skaters. But but there is a wrestler on this, and Dan Gable.
There's Dan Gable. That is true.
Yeah. So, I mean, amateur wrestling is certainly a big part of that. I don't know if some people will be upset. I don't know if pro wrestlers will be upset about that. And I love pro wrestling. I absolutely love it. But I didn't put forth any, and neither did anyone else. I don't think we're really wrong.
I didn't either. But
because if anyone was going to do it, it would have been me.
Right, true. How did you choose your 100? What's the process?
My 100?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I looked at each sport, and then after I did that, then I just did like a Wikipedia search of all American sports, looking back at people I may have missed. So some people who I didn't know about, like there's like one person who got a couple votes, but we didn't put him. He didn't get enough support to put him through. Darrell Pace, who was a legend in archery. So that was someone who I considered, but originally when I put together the whole list of preliminary nominees, it was like 500 or something. And then there just some people came up with more. Glenn brought up the triathlete names. Then it feels like felt like almost every time, okay, I've got it. There can't be anyone I missed. And then there's people I missed. Yeah.
So the way I did this, I started out with the Sports Century list from ESPN. And I eliminated all the Canadians, eliminated all the horses, and Joe Namath.
Oh, yeah. Before that, there's no horses. We decided no horses. Yes, they're American. They're American horses. They're not aware that they're American. They may not even be aware they're horses.
In immortal words of Carl Lewis on Man vs. Beast, when the guy was racing the zebra on the sprint, his keys to the race. The zebra needs to get off to a good start. He needs to run fast and hard, and he needs to realize he's in a race.
But it's so true. The zebra could just say, "Nah, I ain't doing this."
Well, but we do have jockeys though.
Yes,
on the list.
2 jockeys made it through: Eddie Arcaro and William Shoemaker.
Yeah, who are basically the names for jockeys. So not surprising. So for me, I did like I said, I did that, and then I went through and thought about people really since then. And I went back and looked at people in case there's anyone who got forgotten. Someone who was on that list who I think I put in mind was John McEnroe. I don't remember who I did on my list fully because, as I said before last week, I accidentally deleted what I sent you, so hopefully you have a copy of it.
Somewhere.
Which is annoying because all my research I had on that, not what I sent you, but I had all my research on one of my other pages, which was a lot of research. But so I went through that, and then one of the most fun things, honestly, was the women. Going through like, oh, that's a good person. I did a lot more deeper dives into women's sports than I normally would. And I had, by the way, I did exactly 15 for this first list. If we have the same rule next year, I've got like 20 to 25 candidates. So I was like, oh man, I was seriously considering putting on. And I didn't. But that's the other thing too, because next year, if 50 of these folks are gone, odds are like 48 or 49 of them were people I originally put on there. I'm imagining. And now I'm going to have to come up with 50 more names. I'm looking forward to next year's nomination process just because it's going to be so different and so much fun. It's easy to nominate Muhammad Ali, but now that Muhammad Ali's gone, because let's be honest, Muhammad Ali is going to get in. I don't care.
It would have to. I'd be shocked if it doesn't.
I'd be more than shocked. But like once those people are in, now what? There's still going to be people left over who probably shouldn't be left over. But now where do we go from here? Who's next? After all these other folks are in and through and everything else. So I'm looking forward to the process next year quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. So you can find that www.notinhalloffame.com/USA. Pretty easy to remember because, hey, what country are you in? Unless you're me.
I believe I am in Chirac. That movie was correct. Yeah.
So
I'm in Schaumburg. Schaumburg is 45 minutes away from downtown or from Chicago, and definitely not Chirac out here. So.
Oh dear. Well.
But anyway. All right. Do you have any long shot predictions you think are going to get in? I know you have more data than I do. Is there any who's the least likely person you think is going to get in?
Tracy Ruiz seems like someone who seems very unlikely to me. I think some of the women who aren't as higher profile, like what they did was so long ago, and it just escaped. The imagination is not there. Like Debbie Meyer, for example, for what she did in the Olympics. But that was when I was doing all the write-ups, that was the one thing that was so interesting to me. And I mean, I was aware of it, but I never thought about it. How so many of these Olympians, like Mark Spitz, for example, could have won way more shit if he would have kept competing. But he couldn't take an endorsement.
Yeah.
Which is so idiotic. So he pretty much had to quit competing in order to sort of cash in on his name.
Right.
The one thing that he owns, and he can't sort of make money off it because of this bullshit amateurism that existed. So I think Debbie Meyer is one that's really going to struggle because what she did, winning I believe it was 3 gold medals, the first time they even had more women's events in the 68 games, and it's only 16. Dara Torres competed until she was 44.
Yeah.
So what would Meyer have been able to do if she didn't feel that she had to quit before? Or she might, or she might not. She might have quit anyway. I don't know. But so I think someone like that, it's not because she's not deserving. It's just there's so much stiff competition. Dara Torres, to me, I'm just amazed at being able to do what she did over and over and over. And it was 5 Olympics, and there wasn't even 5 consecutive.
Right.
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
I think some of the two Negro League players will struggle, unfortunately. Josh Gibson.
Yeah. And Sasha Page.
Yeah.
I have to say, here's my prediction for the least accomplished athlete who I think has a close to 50-50 shot of making the Hall on our list. Bo Jackson.
If anyone was college sports, but Bo Jackson was sports for anyone who remembers that, which is, I think, a lot of our audience. If you just look at the back of a stat card, you'll never get it, what he meant.
Yeah.
To your other question, I think almost every hockey player will not get. There's not one of these hockey players are going to get in.
No, I mean it's Hull, Chelios, and who else?
Hull, Chelios, and Mike Modano.
On Modano. Yeah.
And 3 first-ballot Hockey Hall of Famers, but none of them also did anything on the U.S. level. I mean, well, they did. Yeah, which one of them was on the 96 team in the World Cup? But that was so much of was the well, you'd remember. So when the U.S. won the 96 World Cup, how big a deal was that?
Not particularly, as far as I can remember. I mean, I was in high school at that point.
Yeah.
So I can't even remember it making much of a ripple. I think the 2002 Salt Lake City games were the first ones that really felt like international hockey mattered.
Yeah, 'cause the World Cup of hockey just hadn't really done as much as it should. In Canada, of course, we lived and breathed everything about that. And yes, I'm aware I'm a Canadian who sort of helped develop this. Well, Evan and I thought of it, so there. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm well aware that I've got it's like the first season of American Idol. Like, Simon, you're from England. You have no business telling us Americans who can sing or who can't. Okay, I guess I'm Simon Cowell in this case, which makes you.
Hey, you're the impartial observer from another country. That's fine.
Oh, that works.
You're the UN. You're the UN, making sure that the elections are fair.
Because I like that much better. Because if I'm Simon, that means that you're either Randy or Paula.
Come on, dog.
I think I knew which one you were going to pick out of those two.
Straight up, man. Straight up. Now tell me. Nice. Thanks for getting this Hall of Fame.
Nice. So, yeah, I think they're going to struggle. The hockey players are. I think someone who will struggle and shouldn't might be Bonnie Blair.
Now, Bonnie Blair and Eric Heiden, both of them.
Right.
Getting up to the West Coast.
Easily the 2 best in their craft ever to come out of the United States. It's not even close. And there have been a lot of other good American speed skaters, but speed skating is just not that big. That it's just what we care about it. Let's be honest, 2 weeks out of every 4 years, and I think that might hurt some of the swimmers too. I think there won't be nearly as many swimmers as we would think that are going to get into this.
Yeah, that would surprise me. I'm wondering if we're going to be big 4 sports heavy.
I don't know.
Plus a couple of boxers and maybe a couple of tennis players.
Whereas I think here's another sport that's not exactly a big name sport either in diving, but Greg Louganis is the only diver that we have on this list.
Brian Boitano didn't make it? What am I saying, Brian? Yeah, I'm sorry. What am I saying, Brian Boitano? My bad. I don't know why I was thinking. I don't know. He's a skater. Never mind.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
that was my brain on 11 o'clock at night, and done with my. I finished off my ball Woodford Reserve, so
nice.
I have the Woodford, and now I'm also sad, and it's 11 o'clock at night, so I just my brain. Wait a second. But yeah, no, Louganis, and honestly, at this point, Louganis may be just as famous for hitting his head on the board.
Yes, I still remember that. So I remember thinking, like, how does someone this good have that? It's like when Tiger Woods would miss a gimme putt. It just doesn't happen.
Do you think we'll have any race car drivers?
No.
We got what, 4?
Yeah,
we have Petty, Earnhardt, Hoyt, and Andretti.
Yeah, and all 4 of them totally worth consideration. I think it's going to be a struggle for any of them to get in, unless there's sort of a big push from Tobacco Road. But again, I don't know. I really don't know how that's going to play out. I mean, it's certainly possible. There could be a community that comes out of nowhere. Speaking of which, I'll tell you right now. Do you want to know who's running away with for the fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame first round? And it's not even close right now.
King Street.
No. Buckaroo Banzai.
Wow.
They're destroying everybody. So somehow, somewhere, some Buckaroo Banzai community is pushing for this. I also
going Bonzo.
Oh, I also did you see we got mentioned in somebody's blog on Outsider, not blog, somebody's article on Outsider.com, pushing for Kevin Costner to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and she wrote this really very interesting article, basically creating war, like B war and F war, equating Costner's movie acumen in the 3 baseball movies. And then right at the end, it closed with, "Oh, and by the way, Billy Chappell is inducted into the fictitious athlete Hall of Fame." No, he wasn't. It was Crash Davis. He did not reach out to us for comment. I'm upset.
Well, at least somebody's noticing we exist. Maybe not knowing what we're doing, but
well, I mean, it's every time.
To be fair, we're not really sure what we're doing either.
Well, yeah, it's almost like one time, and then I noticed I get a big spike from Sacramento. It's like, well, why is this? And I got mentioned from the Sacramento Bee for an article, or because they're championing Chris Webber for the Basketball Hall of Fame, and said, "Oh, and even this amateur website, notinhalloffame.com." Like, wait, why am I an amateur website?
Because if you're a professional website, the tax people in Barbados can get pissed.
Oh, there's that. I was like, Jesus, like what's up with that? What's up with that?
I mean, your website has more traffic than the Rock Halls.
Not anymore. That lasted for 2 days. Once they put up the fan vote, that was over.
All right. Well, now we have up a fan vote. See how that goes.
That's true. But it is way more traffic than the basketball hall and the hockey hall. So I've got that. But not the Sacramento Bee. I was sort of hoping that would be, because I wanted to respond. Amateur site, look at, well, crap. They actually do very well. But so much for that.
It's just so hard to reach for comments. It's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Because I have such a hard time talking about nonsense. But yeah, you never know where communities are just going to pop out of nowhere and spread. You just don't know. So who knows? There might be because who's Tracy Ruiz's son? Michael Conforto of the Mets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
I did not know that.
Yeah, let me just make sure I got that right. So who knows? It could be a whole lot of people from the Mets. Just saying, hey, vote for my mom. Tracy Ruiz. Michael Conforto?
Yeah, Michael Conforto, you're right.
I'm right? Okay. I knew that she had a famous son when I was doing all my bios, but I didn't know until recently. I learned so much about all this stuff.
Well,
some good, some bad.
That's what happens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But we've almost gone 2 hours, and kudos to all of you for staying through all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So we
didn't go on very many tangents this time. It's very strange. We had something to actually talk about without many tangents. It's not like us.
Well, next week I'm sure we'll screw it up.
No, we do have a fan base to keep happy.
That's true. That's very true. And with that, everyone, stay safe, have fun, and you'll learn something before it's done.
Is that our new tagline?
I don't
workshop it.
I don't know. I don't know, but it's still my favorite part of Fat Albert. And I know we canceled Cosby, but I can't cancel Fat Albert. I just can't do it.
What about picture pages?
Never watched it.
Picture pages, fill your day with picture pages. Time to watch Bill Cosby do a picture page review.
Oh, Bill.
If there is an obscure TV show from the 80s or early 90s that has a theme song, I got it in my head. Do I remember the stuff I learned in high school about math? No. But if you want the Dino Saucers theme, I am your man.
I've also I've got the GoBots in my head sometimes.
GoBots. Yes, they came first. The Transformers were like, yeah, no, we got better marketing. Sorry.
You ever watch like an old
Turbo? Sorry, Turbo in Leader 1. There you go. There's the poll. Scooter. I think, is that all my GoBots? Dozer, Tank. I don't know. Any more GoBots I can think of? There was one that was the drill with the screw head. I can't think of his name.
Oh, they all were crappy.
Yeah. Leader 1, Turbo, Scooter, Dozer, and Tank, I'm sure of. Because Dozer and Tank's names were taken for the Matrix from the GoBot characters.
Looking back, just the cynical adult that I am, they had Transformers on Canada Netflix. So I was watching some of the first season, and then, my God, it's like, man, Optimus Prime has got this roll call down just so that you knew which toy you wanted to buy. It's like Ironside, Prowl, whatever. I'm trying to remember. Bumblebee. Like just making sure that you know which ones that you needed to buy.
It's the same reason they did that on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Cambot, Tom Servo, Gypsy, Crow.
In the not so distant future. Yes, I watched that one too.
Another great theme song. My favorite part of that theme song is just like you forget about the science of this. If you worry about how they live and breathe and eat and breathe and other science facts, you tell yourself it's just a show. We should really just relax. Mm-hmm. And it's like, don't even bother us with this. We don't care. And I just love the fact that it threw that into the theme song.
Well, yes, especially when they had the string with the ship too.
Yeah. The SOL, the Ship of Love.
I thought it was the Satellite of Love.
Satellite of Love. You're right. I'm sorry. I actually have Tom Servo in a miniature right here on my next to my TV. So
come for the USA Hall of Fame. Stay for the MST3K memories. That does feel. I'll close with this. This had to feel like something we had to know about each other without actually knowing it. Was that we're both geeks for that show?
Yeah, of course. But we sing the Waffles song and the Pants song all the time. So in this household, W's for the many ways that you are served. A is for the admiration you deserve. S is because you're flaky, you're fluffy, you're fine. And F is for the flavor that is second to none. L is for how like you melt in my mouth. And E is for eggs. Put them all together, what do? Tell me waffles, we love. Serve me up another, please, waffles. We love. Pop mine up with ready cheese, waffles. We love. Chili waffles, simply fine, waffles. We love. Top me off with Aunt Jemima waffles. We love you.
So they
what do you say, sirs? Pancakes. So.
Do you have to redo that for the Pearl Milling Company now?
They must, yeah. I don't know. It was acceptable in the 80s. So, who knows?
And on that second note.
We said like 8 minutes ago we were going to stop, and then we got into a Mystery Science 3000 tangent. So, anyway. All right, so we're talking about next week. Anything?
Well, something will come up. It always does.
We always talk about coaches and contributors because we didn't get that today. So.
Yeah, we can talk about that for sure.
All right. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, take care.
And everybody vote. Vote early, vote often, but only once a day.
Absolutely.
Tell your friends. Tell your neighbors. Tell your wife.
Tell the whole bunch. I just had a hippopotamus for lunch. Commercial? No? Anyone remember that one? Okay. Now we're going to stop.
I'll talk to you later, man.
Bye.